No matter what I do, this lighting does not look good. Hello, little gremlins. So, today's video has a lot of content that is relevant to the death of Nex Benedict, and if you are not familiar with the story, I would encourage you to Google it for context. So today, I'm going to be reacting to videos created by Storm Ryan and Blossom C. Brown about Nex and his death. And you know what? I'm just not really going to provide any commentary until we actually start watching the video because this is a lot to unpack. We'll start off with Ryan's video because it's the video that essentially starts all of this. It's the video that Blossom reacts to. So, yeah, let's just start off with Ryan's video.
Something that's been really pissing me off as a trans guy in LA is how trans influencers here have been reacting to and speaking about Nex Benedict's death. And now that I think the initial clout of speaking about him has died off a little bit, I think that I'm gonna say a few things. If you've seen any one of my videos or know who I am, then I promise you that you already know what happened next and you already have heard it from someone else. I don't need to repeat it to you. Like, I'm not here to raise awareness about what happened.
Yeah, so I didn't really feel a need to speak much about the story of Nex and to explain it because I don't really have anything meaningful to add that has not already been posted. So that's why I'm just encouraging you to Google it if you are not aware of what happened.
Person who was 16 years old when he passed. I don't even think you guys know anything about him. All these trans influencers are posting like 10-minute freaking speeches like, trans power, this affects all trans people. And it's like, yeah, y'all aren't even using his right pronouns. Did y'all even take a second to do a lick of research on this kid? Like a lick of...
Unfortunately, this is entirely correct because there are activists that have even like completely misgendered Nex. Like there was a trans activist on that one cursed app that uses she, her pronouns for Nex. I'll include the screenshot somewhere over here. So that is something to keep in mind.
Someone has already compiled all the information about Nex and who he was as a person into one nice post, so I'm gonna share that for you since they already did the easy work for me. Here's the original Twitter post. My green screen likes to glitch out, so I'm gonna try to be quick. Here's the original photo of Nex. I'm sure you've seen this photo before, but do you know the story behind...
Okay, so here's what it says. I've been reading a lot about Nex Benedict, feeling, as we all are, saddened over his loss. This thread isn't about how he died, it's about him. It's the memories his friends and family have shared because he was so much more than what happened to him.
Behind this photo. It is a photo from his school picture day. Apparently he wore a little Slipknot hoodie, and he liked for his friends to call him Roach. Nex loved animals, he loved nature. Here he is with his cat Zeus. Nex liked to play Minecraft, he liked to watch The Walking Dead. He loved cooking, drawing, art. He was a straight A student. One of his exes, their favorite memory with him, he cooked them dinner and then breakfast the next day. It was wings for dinner and then pancakes for breakfast. He was constantly described as someone who would light up the room, whether he was smiling or not. And he was also described as a little fiery kid from one of his teachers who would like play fight with him all the time, every day after school. And they would say like, I'm gonna fight you, and he'd say, I'm gonna fight you, and if I win the fight, then I get your car. Like, he was just a silly little kid, man. He was 16. I'm gonna pull a few things from the article that's linked in the Twitter thread.
Okay, this says, Allie, who uses they-them pronouns and asked to go by only their first name to protect their privacy, said in an interview that they were close friends with Nex. It was one of those things where you met them and you automatically feel like you've known them for years kind of thing. Allie said Sunday before a vigil for Nex, whom they met at the start of the school year. They were such an adventurous little thing. It was never really a dull moment with them.
Where the person got this information from. Here's just a little bit more about Nex and how pure of a person he was to his friends. All of his friends and him would always get in trouble in art class for having a little too much fun.
One says, Allie and Nex's friend group would always get in trouble for laughing too loudly, particularly in art class, Allie said. Nex, who is also known by friends as Roach or Roachy, was a talented artist and could spend 30 minutes working on something that turned out to be a masterpiece, Allie said.
Here's the mention of Nex being called Roach or Roachy. I think for the rest of this video, I'm just gonna call him Roach. We are strangers to this kid, but the least we can do is like honor him correctly. Something that I think is important, I mentioned the pronouns in the beginning. I don't know why people are...
Okay, this one says, Robin Gray, 16, said that he dated Nex on and off, and he started his speech at the vigil by clarifying how Nex identified. This is important. I want to start off by saying that Nex was transgender and used he, him pronouns, Gray said. He was so much more than his transness. And there are so many posts that paint him as like some non-binary kid who used they, them pronouns, which is simply not true. And I think that's the point that Ryan is trying to make.
Are ignoring this. I don't know why Roach, Nex, I don't know why he's being promoted as like a non-binary they, them youth who died. Like, that's just not what happened. He's a trans guy. Clearly he's a trans guy. Actually, I do know why everyone's calling Nex they, them and saying that he's non-binary. His parents said.
Okay, yeah. So he's basically summing up the screenshot that he has, but I would believe the friends more than the parents because people tend to be more open with their friends about this sort of thing because parents aren't always accepting. And I feel like that is something else to note.
Said so. And literally everyone is...
Okay, I'll just read it. Anna Richardson, a local business owner, said she started organizing the vigil after her son, an Owasso senior, told her about what happened to Nex and about bullying that LGBTQ students at the school face. She said that they had daily conversations at home about whether the students had a place to process Nex's death at school, and that her son told her nobody feels like they can talk about it or are allowed to talk about it. So, she said, she asked Nex's family whether she could plan a vigil to give the community a place to remember Nex and grieve. And Nex's great-grandmother said yes, though the family didn't attend.
It's like, that's just not true. That didn't happen. His family didn't even want to attend freaking memorial service thing that they freaking did. I don't know. I just learned about this part and it's just mind effing me.
Okay, it could be that they're trying to grieve in their own way and they don't really want to be overwhelmed by all of the people there, which I totally understand, but I still do find it a little bit interesting that they didn't go.
The brain right now. Everybody say thanks, Anna, for being the mother that Rochi should have freaking had. What the heck? His friend Allie that was mentioned.
Okay, this says, Allie said their once rambunctious group in art class was quieter about Nex. Despite the near-constant news about Nex's death, Allie said, they are in denial. For some reason, it's like I'm always looking for them wherever I go, though I was there at the funeral. I watched them be placed in the ground. I was one of the last people to leave, Allie said. I always look for them in crowds, and I'm still waiting for them to come back to our class. I do miss them a lot.
The reason this upsets me so much is because I can relate it back to me, which is selfish, but when I was in high school, my parents were not very supportive of me, and I feel like if I were to have passed in the same way, they might be accommodating in the sense of calling me they, them, to not get backlash from the public. My mother's very supportive now. My father's out of my life. I can't imagine like how many trans kids this happens to and they're just not recognized at all for who they are.
Yeah, this is a really, really good point. That sort of goes back to what I was saying about how you should take the friends' words, like you should believe the friends more than the parents, and this is a really good point as to why.
I'm very happy that Nex Roach is getting recognized as a trans person. We're still misgendering him and we're still not like identifying him right. If you stuck around or skipped around, thank you so much for listening to his story and learning a little bit more about him. If you find someone misgendering him, you know, please direct them to the thread and to the article and please correct them nicely. Nicely, please. A lot of people don't know, but they just didn't bother to do the research. I don't know what's up with that. How did I do research? I don't know if you know me. How did I do research? And all these other smart people who are actually scripting their stuff didn't do research.
Yeah, it just seemed like they were rushing in to make videos about Nex, but the way that they're talking about him almost treats him as though he's some sort of historical figure, even though his death was really recent, which that does kind of bother me. Alright, now let's move on to Blossom's video.
Something that's been really pissing me off as a trans guy in LA is how trans influencers here have been reacting to and speaking about Nex Benedict's death. And now that I think the initial clout of speaking about him has died off a little bit, I think that I'm going to say a few things. If you've seen any one of my videos or know who I am,
why is she being so disrespectful?
You already know what happened next.
Like, she's just being so rude.
Someone else, I don't need to repeat it to you. Like, I'm not here to raise awareness
what are these facial
about what happened. I'm here to talk about Nex as a person. He was 16 years old when he passed. I don't even think you guys know anything about him. All these trans influencers are posting like 10-minute freaking speeches like trans power. This affects all trans people. And it's like, yeah, y'all aren't even using his right pronouns. Did y'all even take a second to do a lick of research on this kid? Like a lick of research. Someone has already compiled all the information about Nex and who he was as a person into one nice post, so I'm gonna share that for you since they already did the easy work for me.
And there you have it, everyone. A prime example of trans influencers bitching about other trans influencers who showed up to a vigil for Nex Benedict.
That's an interesting word choice. I think criticizing is more the accurate word. He didn't seem like he was whining or anything, but I guess that's just an issue that I personally have.
She made this long video about Nex.
What'd she just say?
She made this long video about...
No way. She just misgendered Ryan, even though he was literally talking about using the correct pronouns for the kid. Let's go back. Maybe I misheard her.
She made this long video about...
In the captions, it uses she, her pronouns. I mean, I guess the captions aren't entirely accurate, but that is something that I would say that she should be mindful of, is to edit her captions to make them more accurate, and to be mindful of how she sounds, you know, how she could be interpreted, which is ultimately what is bothering me here. Because if she did misgender him, that's yikes. But if she didn't and she just misspoke, then she should have clarified that in the captions.
About Nex Benedict, let's talk about a few things. First of all, you're doing all of this talking as if you showed up to the vigil. Did you even show up to Nex's vigil?
Again with the captions, but anyway. He didn't talk about the vigil, though. He just talked about Nex and the way that the influencers have been talking about his death.
I don't think so, because we didn't see you there. Especially when you live in the greater Los Angeles area.
Wait, did you just dox him? Wow.
Second of all, some of the trans influencers that you're talking about also have the intersectionality of being indigenous as well. An example, my damn self, as I am Afro-Indigenous. With that being said, how are you making all of this content about Nex and yet disrespecting the people that showed up for Nex and the people who also have a similar intersection as Nex?
That's not what he said, though.
And even more wild, to disrespect trans influencers who are indigenous.
He said nothing about, like, any of that. All that he said was just to remember Nex as a person and gender him correctly.
Talk so much about white solidarity from our white trans siblings. Then when they...
Are you implying that Ryan is white? You're gonna try and say that this dude is white. No, I am white. He is not.
They do show up, we complain about it? Actually makes no
Again, with the wording there just gives me the ick.
Sense to me. But I do agree with you on this part. The misgendering was bullshit.
Then why did you misgender him? What?
The anti-blackness was bullshit.
I don't know what point she's trying to make there. Maybe there was anti-blackness at the vigil. I was not there. I am very far away from where it happened. But the video had nothing to do with race. And Nex was not black. I don't know what she's talking about there. Like, I don't know where this point is coming from. So, like, I'm just confused there.
But the organizers that were there checked all of that. So you're absolutely right, and that's fair criticism.
What is this video?
If you're talking specifically about trans influencers that you have beef with, say so.
Honestly, I think his video was more of a you-know-who-you-are type of thing. That's at least how I interpreted it.
But to generalize all of us in the same group is intellectually dishonest.
I do find it interesting how she's accusing Ryan of being intellectually dishonest when she didn't show the full video and said things that weren't even relevant to what he said. But okay, I guess.
Have power. So let's use them wisely, please.
I agree. Let's not misgender trans people.
Wishing you love, peace, and healing.
Okay, so that was it. That was quite the wild ride. I personally think that Ryan had a good point, and that Blossom just either completely missed it or intentionally twisted his words. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but that video was not it. And I do find it interesting how she limited the comment access and allegedly deleted comments that said that she was misgendering Ryan and just left up the positive ones and is only letting certain people comment. I find that interesting. But yeah, that was something. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.